Who are you wanting to go? Right. I don't have any of my shirts. Are you gonna turn your thing?
Thank you, Madam Chair. We are live.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Cowichan Valley Regional District Board meeting for April 13th, 2022. And with that, I'd like to acknowledge that this meeting is being held on the traditional territory of the Coast Salish people, and also like to welcome Alternate Director Sandhu to our meeting today. And Director Staples will be joining us at 2 o'clock. So, and before we start the formalities of the meeting, I just wanted to speak to one member that has passed away in the past few days, and speak to that. And this was in North Cowichan, and I'm just wanted to talk about George Seymour. So George Seymour, I had worked with him, I believe Director Morrison, quite a few of us had the pleasure of working with him. So the North Cowichan resident, public servant, and former member of council who passed away on April 11th. In recognition of his long and faithful public service and significant contribution to North Cowichan, George was honored as a freeman of the municipality in 2015. George was elected to the North Cowichan Council in 1996 and served for 15 years, 9 years on the board of the Cowichan Valley Regional District. He's a longtime chair of the Technical Planning Committee and a participant in the Advisory Planning Committee. George, a key player in the North Cowichan's 2002 official community plan, as well as an OCP adopted in 2011. He was a strong supporter of agriculture in the valley, an advocate for the Cowichan Theatre, and instrumental in bringing in the Cowichan branch of the Vancouver Regional Library to the Cowichan Community Centre property. George also had the foresight to convince the CVRD board to plan financially for new Cowichan District Hospital by implementing a reserve fund policy, which helped facilitate the purchase of the property of the new hospital and continues to be used today as a hospital capital expenditure plan is developed. So he was a true leader. George spent his career in the Canadian Foreign Service representing Canada in Vietnam, The Hague, Sri Lanka, Washington, D.C., Singapore, and Malaysia. He acted on Canada's behalf in the challenging and high-profile situations, including as High Commissioner during his Singapore and Malaysia postings. When George retired from federal government, he moved to the Cowichan Valley and got involved in the community and land use policies. In 1997, he and his wife joined other local residents to save a historical property full of Garry oak trees, which has evolved into the Cowichan Garry Oak Preserve, now managed by the Nature Conservancy of Canada. George is survived by his wife, Marie Claire Seymour. And with that, I'd just like to ask if we could just take a moment of silence. Thank you very much. He will be missed, and he was a great attribute to our community. Turning now to an approval of the agenda, we have quite a few changes. I will just let you know. We have a delegation, Amanda Redpath, and we have this is the new business. So that is the slow pitch Saltaire. We have an addition that was sent to you, DV. Actually, Ms. Harrison, do you want me to continue?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Could we get a recommendation, a separate recommendation for the delegation? Because there needs to be a 2/3 vote on that one.
Oh, okay, thank you. Because it's new business and it didn't get in on time. Okay, so I'm looking to the committee if we are going to accept, it's been approved. Do I just take a vote or there needs to be a motion on that
It
fact?
needs to be a motion. It needs to be voted on, Madam Chair.
Okay, so Director Marsh is moving it. Is there a seconder? Been moved and seconded. I'm going to call for 2/3 of a vote. All in favor? Motion is carried. Ms. Harrison? Okay, thank you so much. And with that, the addition to DVP, the CR2 number 8.
Madam Chair, just a point of order on the delegation. Does the delegation show up under bullet 5 of the agenda, or do they wait till the very end for new business? I mean, you referenced it as new business, but I'm hoping it goes under 5, because if we wait till new business, the matter that the delegation wants to appear for will have already been disposed of.
I was told new business, but I was assuming it would go under delegation number 5.
Thank you.
But because it came in late, it would be considered new business because we had to approve it.
Thank you.
Okay, and so I'm turning now, there is more. There's a closed session resolution of mine with appointees. There's public input period today that Ms. Harrison will let us know. And also to pull the item in closed CSSR3. And with that, those changes, Ms. Harrison, go ahead.
And one more piece of correspondence, new business piece of correspondence in relation to committee report recommendation number 2.
Okay. Thank you. With those changes, I turn to committee for an approval of the agenda. Moved, second, all in favor? Opposed, if any? Motion's carried. Thank you so much. Turn now to Ms. Harrison for the adoption of the minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Next item is adoption of the minutes, and the item or the recommendation before you is that the minutes of the regular board meeting of March 23rd, 2022 be adopted.
Moved. Second, all in favor? Opposed, if any? Motion is carried. Thank you so much. And we turn now to public input. Ms. Harrison?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do have 2 applicants. One is Thomas Elliott, and he is waiting in the lobby virtually. And the other individual is Pam Miller, who is sitting in the gallery. So
Okay.
I will admit Mr. Elliott and start the clock when you're ready.
Go ahead, please. Welcome, Mr. Elliott. Can you hear us? Mr. Elliott? I'm not seeing is in the lobby. Could we turn to Pam Miller first and then wait for Mr. Elliott?
Yes,
Go ahead,
Madam
Pam.
Chair. Yes,
Okay.
Madam Chair. One moment, please.
Yes.
Red, are you talking? Press the button, make sure this is red first.
Okay,
You probably leave it on this side.
okay.
Welcome, Ms. Miller.
Do I start now?
Go ahead, please.
Okay. I'm speaking in support of motion 8 concerning the application coming from Thane Road. And the motion is for to go to the staff to work with the ministries to come up with a collaborative approach. I'm the president of the Kingburn Valley Community Association. We've been an association for almost 5 years. And this isn't really, I have to say this for me, I've come to the point where this isn't just about GT Farms, the compost waste issue, the 3 quarries that we have, on, and lack of compliance with conditions, the warnings that he's gotten, the administrative penalty issue. It's really about the government jurisdictions working together. Who's in charge? Who's going to monitor the activities? So someone like GT Farms isn't able to do what he's been able to do. I don't really hold it against GT Farms because they just do what they can do. What I'd like to see is the jurisdictions, the provincial ministries, CVRD, being able to work together so we know who's monitoring the activities, what the penalties will be, and who will make sure that they're carried out. Recently, and I think you've gotten this, Sonia Furstenau in a legislative session last Thursday brought up our concerns to the Ministry of Agriculture and the Minister of Mining. And the Minister of Agriculture we met with actually last July, and because of that meeting, she's asked the Deputy Minister to come up with a roundtable where we can meet with representatives from Ministry, Agriculture, and Environment to talk about what our experience has been as a case example. Because I see it as a case example that's happened not only with our area, but other areas, and we're actually going to get that roundtable. So why cannot CVRD do a similar thing and use us as a case example, so how you can work with the provincial ministries and not have this silo experience that we experience at the community level. I mean, at one point we had to contact the Ministry of Mining, Environment, Agriculture, Work Safety. We even went to federal fisheries, all on our own to try to get solutions to some of the problems that have occurred because of not only the Dugan pit mine, but the Doran mine and a compost pile, illegal importation of slaughter waste. So again, I'm not focused on GT Farms. What I'm focused on is what we can do to have a more collaborative approach. And so I really hope that you pass this motion. And I want to thank the discussion that occurred last week, and our Sierra, our area director, Allison, our neighbor in Cowichan Station, and Mike and Cobble Hill. I think they understand what some of our experience has been. So I'm just really hoping that you go forward with this motion and really make the effort, as we're making, to try to meet with them to have a collaborative approach. So local government has a voice, the community has a voice in the provincial decisions that are being made. And again, we know who's in charge.
Thank you so much.
That's all I need to say.
Thank you so much, Ms. Miller. And thank you for your contribution. I turn now to Thomas Elliott. Are you with us now, Thomas?
Yes, I am.
Go ahead, please. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair, and to the rest of the directors in attendance. Thank you very much for receiving me. I largely agree with the last speaker's point. I do truly believe that local decisions by local decision makers is a pathway forward in the future. However, we're not quite there yet with our legislative framework, and consequently, we do have to function in the system that we currently do have and make do where we can when things are not meeting our intents and purposes. And for our goals here, we are looking at something that is sustainability. And sustainability is, of course, meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs, as was eloquently put by the Brundtland Commission in 1987. Now, the 3 pillars of sustainability would be the environment, which largely is revolving around ecological integrity, the economy, which is the communities that maintain their independence while also being able to access resources, and then social, And I think social is where we are looking at a conflict. We are not in a sustainable system currently because our social needs are not being met. Now, social sustainability is where the human rights and basic necessities are attainable by all. And now this, of course, includes food coming from agriculture. And of course, this speaks also directly to you, the directors, the leaders of our community, where it has been stated that healthy communities have just leaders who ensure personal, labor, and cultural rights are respected, and all people are protected from discrimination. And now I must ask 2 questions for your consideration as we move forward here. First and foremost, I ask that the board consider the submitted closure plan on merit. Not on the origin, but on the merit. We are trying to close the aggregate extraction operation. And second, I would ask that you consider whether or not, if the plan was submitted by another proponent, would the discussion at the EASC have been such fraught with conflict, with emotion, and with difficulties? So as such, if you cannot say that it would have been subject to similar scrutiny or negative connotation, I would ask you that you then recognize that your own code of conduct and the social sustainability aspect are not being met. And that is all I have to say today.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And so we turn now to our delegation. I turn to Amanda Redpath and let you know that you have 10 minutes and you were here. There you are. Welcome.
I am here. Thank you very much, and thank you for allowing me to attend today. I've done my best to try to summarize on behalf of the Saltaire Slow Pitch League and my community in the 10 minutes I've been offered. I was asked to speak on behalf of the league regarding the board meeting April 6th, as well as the CBRD Parks and Trails staff report, where our application was denied to use the ball fields at Saltaire Centennial Park. I am an executive member of the league and have been a player for about 12 years. I also was previously a member of the Parks and Rec Commission in Saltaire and served on that board voluntarily for about 4 years. Just so you know a little bit about me, I also reside in Saltaire and I'm a homeowner and a taxpayer. Our league is comprised of about 200 players with 5 executive members that run things behind the scenes. We've always had a good working relationship with CBRD and with our former area director, Mel Dory. There have been isolated events over the years and every single one dealt with, immediately taken seriously, and disciplinary methods utilized where needed. Last year, as concerns began to increase, one of our executive members would attend the fields right away, meet with the teams and players to do so on site, and do conflict resolution in a timely manner, reporting that back to our CVRD contact. Some of the concerns that have been outlined in the staff report include loitering and departure beyond park hours, which is currently done until dusk. Following the pandemic, that 2021 season was the first time we were able to play. For some of us, the first time we were able to see each other for about 18 months. So yes, initially there was celebration, there was excitement. We stayed after games, we caught up with families. We learned real quick that that was not acceptable within the parks. As soon as that information was given to us, we talked with our team and our players about it. July 15th, 2021, that went out and that concern was mitigated. There was another example provided with the concern of fire hazards because of smoking during games. When CVRD was about to remove the fireproof ashtrays from the fields, we did talk to them about our concerns with this because we knew we had players who smoked. We also respected and understood that this was going to be a ban. And so we tried to follow through and enforce that. We spoke to the players, we reviewed the expectations repeatedly that there was no smoking to be happening in the parks. Coaches and players did hold each other accountable. If you saw someone smoking, you told them immediately. I really want to assure you that there's never been a concern of a fire starting at the park, nor have we ever had any neighbors reporting to us a concern of their homes being at risk because of a fire. from our league. We do recognize and understand the importance that we cannot smoke in the parks. We will continue to enforce this, and we are going to have our team, all of our teams and players sign in agreement to that if they would like to play, if permitted the ability to play. Most of the players do follow the rules and treat the parks with respect. Overall, we're all there for the love of baseball and to have a casual recreational activity to gather and play with friends and family. This league has been in play for about 40 years. It did start as a beer league, and as times have changed and expectations have been put in place, so has the league. Our love of the game, though, has never changed. It was mentioned by Director Smith in the meeting that a bylaw officer was required to come to the fields and monitor during the ball tournament. However, she did not share that this was also due to her coming to the fields, repeatedly going into the dugout, searching personal belongings while recording on her phone, looking for fault with our players, and that also because of this behavior, people spoke out and asked her to leave. According to the Parks bylaws in the Parks Bylaw 738, in section 41A to F, there isn't a category that she falls under to enforce that level of authority on us. Players had reported to us their concerns for someone who appeared very unprofessional within her role, not respecting the provincial health guidelines and social distancing at the time because we were in the COVID rules of return to play, and also breaching privacy rights. A report of these concerns was made and submitted to Brian Carruthers, and we received a response July 28th, 2021, that he's going to follow up and report back to us. We didn't hear a response from that, but we wanted to focus on conflict resolution, move forward and play ball, so we didn't speak out. Now we do want that addressed. It was also not shared that one of our league executive had met with the bylaw officer and reminded of the liquor licensed event that was upcoming. There had been such a focus on all of the COVID restrictions and rules to play that our executive members had been focused on that, and the kinsmen who were running the liquor licensing we had thought could also do the special events permit for that event. That was a misunderstanding on our part. We understand that under section 13, we had followed 1A, we had missed 1B. We will not let that happen again. We have also run our licensed events multiple times for our other tournaments and not missed that step. So we really recognize and acknowledge that this was a one-off. Also, when the bylaw officer attended, he didn't share with us any alarming concerns. And we actually did speak with him, reached out to him and asked him what we could do differently. He said that no one was in non-compliance as far as he could see. He didn't give out any tickets or list infractions. And as far as we know, that's not occurred in our time involved with the league. So when you look at the section 15.5 where it references actions and penalties, those weren't administered to us. We did have verbal conversations. We did have written communication with CVRD, but we were not given penalties. And so we were very shocked that the scrutiny occurred the way it has for this year. We definitely follow through on safety, and we try as a league to make sure everyone follows those rules. We've evicted players on behavioral concerns reported to us, and we agree it should be a safe space for everyone. Director Smith did state that residents adjacent to the park have many concerns and that we are bringing angst to the community. But since we brought these concerns forward publicly through social media, we have been overwhelmed with support from Saltaire and surrounding areas. Neighbors on all sides of the ball field have written in letters and supporting us to play and are all sharing positive examples and stories of interactions with our league. In just a few days, there's been hundreds coming forward. I know many of you have witnessed this, as we have seen in emails and voicemails. And so I don't need to go through each one of those examples, but I hope you take the time to hear them out. With this overwhelming support, I'm also curious now where the increase in complaints did come from and about their validity. Saltaire is home for many of us and our families. Like myself, we own our homes here. We're taxpayers. We contribute to the community. And for other players outside of Saltaire, they're all residing in neighboring communities that fall within CVRD boundaries, like Chemainus, Penelakut, and Ladysmith areas. The Centennial Park offers us a ball field with a playground within eyesight for our children, and where we can go and unwind and play a game while the children interact and play. Our extended family come and cheer us on. As we slowly come out of the pressures of the pandemic and a long winter season, recreational play is exactly what we need for our social connection, our physical health, and especially our mental health and well-being. Whether it's community members watching and cheering us on or the team and players themselves, the league provides entertainment unique to this community and is the only structured league using those fields the entire season. I know that there are some who use it for one-offs like tournaments and for a day here and there. Centennial Park is the heart of Saltaire, and we really want to see it continuing to be used in this way. We've players who are members of the Penelakut tribe, and we coordinate league play around their ferry schedules, so they're also in support of our league. There are only a few businesses in Saltaire at this time, but we do give them additional business as we all come into town. I hope you understand that there's many people that will be impacted by this decision and that you're willing to listen to us and plan for a better outcome. It would be a real disservice to hundreds of local people to not allow for the league to continue when it is the primary use of those fields May through to July each year. Most importantly and finally, if this decision is overturned and you agree to the potential terms our league has put forward, we would request that there is also additional measures put in place to prevent any further harassment from Area G Director to the Saltaire Ball League. It is evident in all of the community responses that she does not accurately reflect the voice of our community and has misused her power in this decision-making process. We would like follow-up to that complaint, and our executive members will continue to communicate directly with our CVRD parts representatives. Thank you very much. I hope that you do listen to what we've said and do not accept the motion to deny.
Thank you very much, Ms. Redpath. Do you have a question, Director Sebring?
I do. Thank you, Madam Chair. To Ms. Redpath, you referenced the terms that our league has put forward if the committee decision is overturned. I'm sorry, but there was such a flurry of emails, I may have missed it. What were those terms? I'm not clear.
We have agreed to having our teams sign, sorry, I'm just trying to pull it up, in agreement that we will leave the park before dusk. When our games are done, our games go Monday to Friday and usually end by about 8:30 to 9 p.m. And we will leave the parks immediately following games, that we will not smoke on the premises, and we will ensure that our garbage is in the bins, and that we will remind our league that there is not to be alcohol. In the cases of the two tournaments, we will ensure that our liquor licenses and our permits are all approved through CVRD and prior to hosting those events. And in the one incident where we did make that error, as soon as we had talked to the bylaw officer about this and brought forward that we were doing this and he had canceled, we also canceled the service of alcohol at that event. So it was under an hour that there was alcohol there. But we did have the liquor license. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Not seeing any other questions, I'd like to thank you very much, Ms. Redpath, for your delegation here today.
Thank you again.
Yep. Turning now to Ms. Harrison.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The next item on the agenda are committee commission reports. And the first report is CR1. It's a report and recommendations of the Committee of the Whole meeting of March 23rd.
Just a point of order, Madam Chair, through you to Ms. Harrison. I thought there was a new item of business under correspondence, but I can't find it in my agenda. I was going to ask where that was.
Oh, thank you, Director Sebring. Actually, it's a new business item, correspondence, and it's in regard to CR2, number 8.
Okay,
So
thank you.
the chair may wish to alter the agenda to bring it forward at that time.
Madam Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
I'm just wondering if Ms. Redpath, who I appreciate her presentation, should be in the meeting or in the lobby.
Oh, I think she's going to be out.
Okay.
Ms. Harrison was just talking to me at the same time. She has to multitask with 10 different things, like an octopus with this.
Yeah,
You have to be all over and thinking of all the things. So we have CR2 number 8, additional correspondence. It was sent to all of us, Ms. Harrison, or does it need to be read out?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Actually, it was sent to all of you by the GM of Land Use Services.
Okay, and everybody's received that. That's why I had said that at the beginning of the meeting, just so that you know that that was an addition.
Did you wish to consider it under correspondence or under new business or in conjunction with committee report 2, recommendation number 8?
Committee report 2, recommendation number 8.
Thank you. So the next item is CR1, which is the report and recommendations of the Committee of Whole of March 23rd, 2022.
Madam Chair, your committee met and reports the following and recommends the following rather. Number 1, that the revised procurement policy attached to the March 23rd, 2022 Committee of the Whole staff report be approved as amended to include the CVRD. Supports the principles of the BC Social Procurement Initiative. Also, that the Coastal Slope Stability Assessment prepared by Stantec Consulting in association with Palmer in February of 2022 be received. That staff would report back to the Electoral Area Services Committee on the process for updating the OCP for the electoral areas to incorporate the mapping and recommendations of the Saltaire Coastal Slope Stability Assessment. That the Coastal Slope Stability Assessment be referred to the Emergency Management Division to inform the Regional Disaster Risk Reduction Program and Emergency Preparedness. Number 4, that staff prepare a report outlining potential additional work and cost estimates for the 2023 budget year, including A, expansion of the Coastal Slope Stability Assessment to other areas in the region with similar geomorphic characteristics, including portions of North Cowichan, Cowichan Bay, and Mill Bay, in order to identify risks to communities and infrastructure. B, more detailed subsurface geotechnical investigation of the Saltaire study area to better refine the recommended setback area. C, a review of stormwater discharges within the Saltaire study area and development of a stormwater management plan. Number 5, that the Coastal Slope Stability Assessment prepared by Stantec Consulting in association with Palmer in February of 2022 be returned to the town of Ladysmith and municipality, or be referred rather, to the town of Ladysmith and the municipality of North Cowichan. 3, number 1, that the landslide hazard assessment prepared by Stantec Consulting in association with Palmer in December 2021 be received. 2, that staff report back to the Electoral Area Services Committee on the process for updating the OCP for the electoral areas to incorporate the mapping and recommendations of the Regional Landslide Hazard Assessment. And 3.3, that the landslide hazard assessment be referred to the Emergency Management Division to inform the Regional Disaster Risk Reduction Program and Emergency Preparedness. And I will so move those items.
Moved. Is there a seconder? Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Go ahead, Director Nicholson.
Thank you. I think I raised this at the Committee of the Whole, but I'd just like to emphasize it again. There's nothing specific in the 2 recommendations about slope stability and landslide hazard assessment that assures me that we're going to look at the Allenby Road, Miller Road area. It has had an assessment, but I am concerned. It is still closed, and it's almost been 6 months since the storm event that shut the road down, and there are ongoing slope stability issues, and I really think that we need to take another look at that. So I just want to mention that I hope staff are including that as a priority in this work that they're going to be undertaking. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more discussion? Seeing none, I call the question. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Motion is carried. Moving on to CR2. Electoral area. Go ahead, Ms. Harrison. Oh, who do I? Go ahead, Director Smith.
Yes, I'd like to pull number 5. Thank you.
Okay.
Madam Chair, might I also suggest that item
Number
8 be pulled?
Yes. So Director Salmon, remember that number 8 with the electoral area directors only vote will be pulled, and that number 5 is pulled. And I'll turn to you, Director Salmon.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. So this is regarding the ESC meeting of April 6th. There are 2 groups of recommendations. The first one, there are 6. We've had number 5 pulled. Are there any others that should be pulled?
Seeing none.
I will move numbers 1 through 4 and 6, please.
Is there a seconder? It's been seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none. Director Sandhu? Oh, you're just, oh. Do you have a question? Okay, go ahead.
Is it, can I ask a question? Just a comment on number 2, the grant and aid for electoral area I.
Yes.
Is it appropriate to ask this question?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So on the application form, it had the address of the info center for the town of Lake Cowichan. And I'm wanted clarification on that.
Okay, I turn to, that is Director Kuhn. And the address of the info center?
Yeah, that must have been a mistake then. It should go to the to the secondary school. Oh no, I'm sorry. You're talking about the other one. Yeah. Okay. No, that should have been gone to the Chamber of Commerce.
So the address should not be reading the info center. It should be saying, so that is correction, that the Chamber of Commerce address should be added on there.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was a mistake then.
So with that correction.
Yes. Thank you very much for clarification.
Thank you. Okay. And with that, seeing no other hands up, I'm going to call the question. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Motion's carried. We turn now to number 5. Director Smith, go ahead.
Thank you. I'm sure that we've all received multiple emails with regards to the application by the Saltaire Slow Pitch League. I am disappointed in many of the emails that became nasty, harassment, bullying. This is not appropriate behavior for a community looking for support moving forward. I also would like
excuse me, just a sec. There's Director Wilson. What do you have, a point of order, or you just wanted to speak to it?
Oh, no, I'd just like to speak on it, please, Madam Chair, after Director Smith has finished.
Okay, sorry for the interruption. Go ahead, Director Smith.
Also, I take personal offense at the statements that have been made by Amanda Redpath. I find that I have not done any of the allegations in regards to my observations at the park. I find that extremely hurtful. I find that this is not building community when we are wanting to move towards community. So I'd like to start by saying that the Centennial Park is a multi-million-dollar CVRD-owned asset. We have responsibilities to the CVRD as a board when it comes to these assets. The staff report information has been provided by our professional staff. Staff reports are not brought forward lightly. CVRD directors rely on the professional staff to bring forward facts. The report indicates the league has been given more than 3 strikes under the special events permit in 2021. I have received many emails in support of ball in the Saltaire Centennial Park. I did not receive any emails supporting non-compliance of the CVRD Parks Bylaws 738. Other local governments include in their parks bylaws no smoking, no consumption of alcohol. There is often no 3 strikes. One infraction has the events permit removed. We all are aware that consumption of alcohol impairs the judgment of individuals. Smoking in a restricted area may result in catastrophic consequences for communities. The staff report clearly reports they have worked towards league compliance with the terms and conditions of the CVRD Special Event Solitaire Slow Pitch League permit. Not just last year, but for multiple years. The report states staff were involved in multiple verbal email communication with the league representative with regards to bylaw infractions and the responsibility of the league's self-regulation to ensure the CVRD bylaws were followed. But I would like to pause. Earlier today, I was sent an email from a ball player. If we can get another permit, I would work very closely with the league to ensure the park is treated well and cleaned up after every game. I care about this so much that I will do almost anything for us to keep playing ball again at Centennial Park. If there is anything I can do to help the cause, please let me know. I find that very respectfully stated. It is clear that there are many ball players and residents in our area that are not familiar with the CVRD Parks bylaw, and that is unfortunate. Also, the length of time a person lives in an area does not exempt them from the CVRD bylaws. To move forward, I feel that the letter from the Ball League and the commercial businesses within our area that would benefit, I would like to bring forward a motion that it be recommended to the board that a Parks and Trails special event permit for the Solitaire Slow Pitch League for use of the ball diamonds of Solitaire Centennial Park between April 23rd and July 22nd, 2022 be approved subject to the implementation of the measures outlined in their letter dated March 27th, 2022, and compliance with conditions set in CVRD Bylaw 738.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any more discussion? I'd have Director Wilson, Sebring, and Morrison. Director Wilson, go ahead, please.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I'm very encouraged to see that Director Smith has brought forward what could be a compromise to help those on this. But I'd like to speak, please, on, if I can, and it is on this subject. I'm very, very intensely concerned as what I perceive as some of the vilification and intimidation of any director, should they choose to protect the safety and well-being of the residents of their respective area. I will be supporting this resolution that's been brought forward by Director Smith, and I'm wondering, one of the things that Ms. Redpath brought forward was the item of a complaint that they'd made in July of 2021, which was acknowledged by the CAO but not followed up on. So I have two questions, if I can ask those at this time. Why was that complaint brought to the attention of Director Smith, and why was this not followed up on as well at that time? It's nearly a year ago, and it's a question I'd like answered. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I turn to the previous chairperson to answer that. Go ahead, Director Stone.
Thanks, and to you, Lynn, first of all, and to the complainant, and to Director Wilson's question. This is an opportunity for me to apologize, first of all, to you, Director Smith, and the complainant, because Mr. Crothers notified me of the receipt of the complaint via text message. I did find those records. Unfortunately, I don't have access to the email anymore when I was no longer chair. And in the goings on of the following long weekend and the following weeks, I literally forgot. And I'm not going to make any excuses other than to apologize to Director Smith. That was my responsibility as chair to bring forward, and it literally just got dropped. And so, all I can say is I apologize. I'm deeply sorry for that for you and to the complainant as well, because Mr. Crothers provided the response, and then his next step was to notify me of the complaint. I did review the email, and there's no other explanation for it, and there's no excuse. So I take full responsibility for that situation, and both the complainant and yourself deserve my apology, and there's no excuse. So I take full responsibility for that.
Thank you very much, Director Stone. I turn to Director Morrison, Sebring, and Toporowski. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak on this topic? Director Morrison, go ahead, please.
Thank you. I don't know if we've got any park staff attending our meeting today, but just a quick question. Oh, there he is.
There we go.
This is, I guess, maybe an expected resolution, but are staff able to work with and monitor the terms outlined in the ball club's letter to you and the new resolution that Director Smith has put forward on the table? Is this a workable solution from a staff's perspective? Because, you know, ultimately it's staff that'll be monitoring this.
Welcome, Mr. Dias.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to Director Morrison. Yeah, the letter that's outlined, dated March 27th, that was presented to committee, outlines a very reasonable option. I think to add some teeth to that, we would look to put a little more language within the conditions of use side of the application, so that the progressive, should there be, you know, a breach of contract or there's a clearly laid out progressive discipline approach that both parties sign and understand, and that there's no further gray area around any future issues should they arise. So I doesn't need to be added to the motion necessarily. We can just add that language within the conditions of use side of the application. Just one more thing I think we'll also add is that you know, we have Bylaw 738 to guide us, but as far as these special event applications go, there is no controlled substance or alcohol policy to fall back on like there is in rec centers. But a couple of the things I've noted from some rec centers within CVRD is that there is the potential for fines from the Liquor Control Board should alcohol be consumed. And so we would outline in the conditions of use that should the CVRD get any fines, that we would pass those right directly on to this particular user group. So hope that answers your question.
Thank you. There might be more. Director Sebring.
I think Director Morrison had more? No? You're good?
Did you have to follow up, Director Morrison?
Okay.
Go ahead, Director Sebring.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I definitely in support of this motion. I was quite disturbed, quite frankly, with the tone of some of the correspondence we received on this, and it goes back to what Director Wilson was saying and also what Director Smith said earlier. It went beyond disrespect. It really did when I read some of the emails referring to this Karen that doesn't know what the hell she's talking about. And that's a direct quote. I'm sorry, folks, but that is no way to garner support of elected officials by calling one of them down that way. I just want to support Director Smith in that. I wasn't part of the ASC. I wasn't part of this discussion. I was frankly quite surprised when the flood of emails started late last week. Didn't even know what it was about. I had to dig around and try to figure it out, and I was hoping this would be an electoral area services only vote so I could back away from it, but such is not the case. I would just ask the community to tone it down, and let's try to keep it a little more respectful on all sides. I think Director Smith has come up with a good compromise. I look at this as kind of a one strike and you're out motion, because if there are contraventions, and I'm assuming Mr. Dias agrees with this, granting of this permit, the special event permit, is subject to compliance with the letter and the bylaw. And if those subjects are broken, I'm assuming that implies that we then withdraw the special event permit. So it's not a case of, oh, we'll try it for another year for a whole season. What we're saying to these folks is, you know what, keep your nose clean, because if you don't, we may pull the permit. That's the way I read the motion. I could be incorrect, but it's on that basis that I'm supporting this. So thank you.
Director Martman, Nicholson, and Marsh. Director Martman, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Chair. And I would support this motion as well, but I come from a perspective of that this shouldn't be a them and us, and that we really are all community, and that I'm glad to hear from the community on the people that came across constructive and owned what their issues were, because to me, that's the beginning of a dialogue. And so I just wanted to thank both sides, I think, that we can come together, we can be a community, and that I think almost any issue can be resolved that way. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Toporowski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you to Director Smith for bringing this motion forward. I'll scratch all of the other notes that I had previously for this to ask. But one of the things that I had seen as one of the concerns was about fire. And I don't know if you can cut me off if this is inappropriate to ask at this time, but I know Cowichan Tribes and CVRD have been grouped together to look around at fire prevention and clearing up bushes and shrubs and branches to prevent fires from spreading. So I was just wondering if someone could answer that right now. Is this going to be used? And I think there was funding for this, I'm not sure. So if someone can correct me if I'm wrong about that too, for those types of clearings. And is this going to be part of the parks as well? Like the Diamond Field, for instance.
So you're talking clearing out the forest fuel, kind of
Yes.
fire smarting the ball fields.
Excuse me, I've got Mr. Dias. I'm not sure if that's, I mean, Parks has been doing that everywhere for the last few years, so I don't know exactly what partnership.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I'll take this one if you don't mind, through to Director Toporowski. There is a grant out there, a Fire Smart grant, that CVRD Parks has applied for, has received some funding for some park property in the Satlam-Glenora area. However, our small sort of invasive species program does allow us to do some of that fuel management with our current resources, either our students or our hired contractors, but we have not received any grant funding to do a Fire Smart application within the forested areas of the park, as of yet, anyway. So,
is there anything else, Director Toporowski?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, I just wanted to also just say, these decisions aren't made lightly for directors to follow up with and be responsible for, and working with the staff and looking at going forward. I think the team has, seen that times are changing and things have happened, and there's no excuse for what happened. But I mean, again, I think after being locked up for 2 years, I call it lockup, because we were, not able to interact with a lot of people. It was just one of those things when you get back together in the public, these things come up of, and we do have to uphold those policies that are in our procedures and stuff like that. So thank you.
Thank you. I turn to Director Nicholson.
Thank you. I guess I was really surprised to get all the emails that I did about this. It really, I thought it was a fairly cut and dried issue. And, but when I was very surprised at is how valued these ball fields are in the community. So I am pretty pleased that we have found a compromise solution. But it also raised questions to me about our policies, and that we really probably should take a look at how fair, transparent, and consistent they are across the region. So I think we have ball fields at Kerry Park, and we obviously have ball fields at Saltaire, and I know the municipalities have ball fields, and it might be worth having a standard way of managing these things so that it works for everyone and there is a clear process for dealing with problems. I come from a community that runs their own community center, the Hub, and it's basically a volunteer run thing. And we, at the front end, speak very clearly to people if they'd like to use the facilities, that it's their responsibility. And everyone we seldom have problems. And when we do, we just jump on them, and people usually have just made a mistake or forgotten. So I'm pretty convinced we can make these things work for the community, and they are so appreciated and valued that it would, I think that's basically our job. Thank you.
Okay, return to Director Marsh.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I echo much of what the last speaker said, and I'm thankful that Director Smith became open to allowing this league to continue. So I just wanted to share.
Yes, yeah. Oh,
Your microphone's on, Director Kuhn. Did you have something to say, Director Kuhn? Okay.
Okay, so what I just wanted to share was what I've learned from staff at the municipality about fire hazard and smoking. So we have often talked about closing our mountains, and I think maybe there was once or twice, maybe in a heat dome or something where we did, but we've been told that, and I'll just preface by saying we have approximately 50 square kilometers of forested mountains in the MFR. And so what we're told is that it's better that this property is used, because then if it's not used widely, as this group obviously is going to be there quite a bit, some lone one or a couple of younger people or something might be up on the mountain sneaking up there smoking, and the fire won't be caught. So I think that, and also just to add again, I think it's really important that people, if you have ball fields, you allow people to use them. I'm not minimizing the problems that may have occurred, but I really hope that this motion isn't for one strike and you're out, and I need clarification, because I can't support that, because there's no way of 100% knowing who left the cigarette butt or the beer can. So I just feel like this feels a little bit like a big heavy hammer, when really I think that the director could work with the community and as someone said earlier, kind of develop a sense of community and mutual caring for the park. So could I have that clarification? If it's a one strike and you're out, or I think Director Stone wanted to say something, Madam Chair.
Director Stone?
No, I just wanted to get on the speakers list.
Okay.
Thanks.
So Director Smith? I don't think that said that in that. I think Director Sebring mentioned that more like. I'm not sure that it came out of the resolution. But well, Director Smith?
Just to be clear, that was my interpretation of the resolution, is that they live within the terms of those and within the terms of the bylaw. I guess the legitimate question to staff is, at what point, if they step outside the agreement or the bylaw, does the event permit get pulled?
Mr. Dias?
Madam Chair, through to Director Sebring. As I was mentioning earlier, I think the best way to write up the conditions of use for this particular application is to outline the discipline procedure, similar to what our CVRD rec centers have done within their controlled substance and alcohol policy when it comes to any kind of alcohol in dressing rooms or those sorts of things. So first strike, for lack of a better word, is a verbal. Second strike is a letter issued to the user group, And the third strike is, or any subsequent offense, is that the immediate suspension of any further bookings or the application. So that seems to be in line with what we're currently doing at recreation centers.
Okay, thank you. And that was Director Marsh's question. I'll turn back to you, Director Sebring, just a second. Director Marsh?
Yeah, just to follow up, Madam Chair, I'm happy to hear Mr. Dias say that. And I would hope that the board at that time would have a chance to weigh in, because, you know, just a little bit reminds me of in a classroom when there's two kids that are always acting out and the whole class has to suffer because of it. So I think we need to, hopefully I hear Director Smith saying she'd like to have better communication in the community and the community brought together. And I'm hopeful. Saltaire is a very cool community, and I'm hopeful that that can happen. Thank you.
Great. I turn Director Sebring. Did you have a follow-up?
Yeah, just a final point of clarification on this with Mr. Dias. You know, you've outlined the verbal, the written, and then on the third strike. At the third strike, is the event permit rescinded, or we don't renew for next year? What happens at strike 3?
I think because we're writing our own conditions of use here, and that there might be some, we don't have a policy written at this point, we can word it however the board wishes. You know, currently in the special event application, there is a sentence around, you know, no further special event applications will be approved.
Okay, that's for next year.
Yeah, that's next year. So if you want to tighten that up, you can make that third offense an immediate, you know, rescindance of the existing application. I'll look to the board for that clarification.
Fair enough. Thank you. I just wanted to be clear where we were right now.
I turn to Director Stone and then back to Director Smith.
Yeah, and I hear all the different perspectives on it, but I do think it is really about community. I know that every single person who serves on the board serves with their community at the center and at the heart of what we all do. And it's been a really challenging couple of years. And I think there's a lot of sort of talking past each other sometimes when we run into difficulties and people are strained and stressed, and if there's the prospect of something being taken away, whether it's a park you love and you're worried about fire hazard, or your home nearby, as to the complaints about some of the behavior, or the prospect of the slow pitch league not moving forward and not being able to use the fields, emotions get inflamed. And you know, I have a unique position having such a family history in Saltaire with the store and all of that. And I know I won't bother the board or Director Kuhn with going on too much about my family's life in Saltaire and all of the long timers there. But knowing so many of the folks that wrote letters, some of them so thoughtfully worded and others maybe not so much, but also knowing Director Smith, we're all different people, and sometimes we have trouble meeting on the way we communicate with each other, but I do have faith in all parties involved that hopefully a third strike conversation will not be necessary. I think the board can put whatever penalties at the end of that line as possible, but if we can just talk to each other in the intervening time, we're always going to have a black sheep or a bad apple that may step outside the bounds of behavior, and hopefully those situations are managed by the ball league themselves before it's ever necessary for the CBRD to get involved. And if not, that we kind of have a meeting of the minds and talk to each other, not over, around, or about each other, to come to a solution that can make everybody happy, because there's nothing better than the crack of the bat and people clapping and seeing the kids on the playground. And really, that's what we're all here to do in the end, is to bring community together. So I'll just leave it at that. And just finally, again, I apologize again, and we can have a further conversation on the lack of oversight I provided on the complaint that came through. And I'm happy to do that. But I think that can be done with myself, Director Smith, and the chair, if she is willing and wanting to do that. And we can follow up on that issue separately.
Okay, thank you very much. And Director Staples has joined. Oh, Director Smith, go ahead, and then I'm going to go ahead. Did you have a comment?
Yes, I do have quite a few comments, but I think that we are an amazing community in Saltaire. I have lived there for over 30 years. Our daughter played ball with many of the people who are still playing ball. We drove these kids all over the CVRD for them to play ball. We even included, so that the ball teams could continue playing, we took our local umpires that were usually kids in the community with us so that we were able to continue playing ball. I've played ball as an adult, and I know how much fun it is. I love to go and watch sports. I've always been extremely active in sports, and my door is always open. I have an email address. I have a cell phone. I'm usually out in the community, either walking, cycling. So I feel that COVID has definitely put restrictions on us. They put a restriction on all of us sitting in a little bingo square today. And we would all like to be sitting at this table. I'm sitting at a table with 3 people, and that's really meaning that we're not communicating well, even working through those things. I think that I want to ensure that we are not placing additional work on staff, the staff capacity, the bylaw officers. Bylaw officers are scheduled by staff to attend. They are not at the whim and will of a director to have them running here or there. They're only scheduled through staff. So I think that we can all move forward. I think this is a great opportunity. I feel that, we should, that Mr. Diaz has brought forward some really good ideas in regards to tightening up the documents and the commitments by the Ball League. And let's not see 3 strikes. Let's just play ball and hit some home runs out in Saltaire. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm actually, Ms. Harrison, I'm going to let Director Staples, I'm not sure if she would have known the resolution, so we should have the resolution read out. And we are on, this is number 5 of the electoral area services. So the rest have been moved, and that's where we are, number 5 on that section. So the resolution, if somebody wants to read it out, just so that Director Staples is clear.
Thank you very much. I appreciate Ms. Harrison's assistance earlier, and she wrote it on my own paper, and we didn't exactly exchange it. So I will reread it, and this is my recommendation, that it be recommended to the board that a Parks and Trails special event permit for the Saltaire Slow Pitch League for use of the ball diamonds at Saltaire Centennial Park between April 23rd and July 22nd, 2022 be approved, subject to implementation of the measures outlined in their letter dated March 27th, 2022, and compliance with conditions set in the CVRD Parks Bylaw 738.
Okay, so everyone is clear, and now I'm going to call the question. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Motion is carried. Thank you so much. I'm looking at the time. I usually like to have an every hour break, so we will take a 10-minute. Before we take the 10-minute break, Ms. Harrison, the CR2 number 8, where would I find that correspondence? Who did it come from?
Thank you, Madam Chair. It actually came from the GM of Land Use Services yesterday. I can resend it to everybody during the break. I'll do that.
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea. Thank you.
Okay. Yep.
Looks like it's way more fun there than it is here.
You have no
Thank
idea.
you, Madam Chair. We are live.
Thank you. So I turn back to Director Salmon, and this is for electoral area directors only, and it's 1, 9, and 10, I believe, because 8 was pulled. Oh, no,
Uh,
7, 9, and 10.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
11.
Just point of clarification, Madam Chair, it would be 7 and 9 to 11.
Whoops, I pulled my screen up a little bit. Thank you. I didn't
Thank
get
you, Madam
number
Chair.
11.
Shall any others be pulled? Seeing none, I therefore move items 7, 9, 10, and 11.
Is there a seconder? Been seconded. Seeing no other hands up, all in favor? Opposed, if any? Motion is carried. Number 8, you might want to read it, Director Salmon.
Okay, thank you. Number 8, that application number ALR 21B01, 1715 and 1745 Thane Road be referred back to staff to facilitate a meeting with the Agricultural Land Commission, Ministry of Mines, and Ministry of Environment regarding the operations and non-compliance issues on the subject site and how to work together to move the site forward in a more positive way and report back to the Electoral Area Services Committee prior to the committee making any decision on the application.
Just a point of clarification, Madam Chair.
Yes.
Also, we had moved item NB4 to coincide with this recommendation. So NB4 would be the letter, the correspondence.
Yes. Okay. Yes, thank you. Okay. Director Nicholson?
I just wanted to move it.
We're being very careful. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. I turn to Director Acton.
I was just seconding it. I actually didn't even hear anyone pull this item, so.
It was pulled number 8 from the beginning when we discussed when Director Salmon. So
okay.
it was.
I didn't hear it get pulled. But I'd like to move it.
It's been moved and seconded, and I turn to Director Wilson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I think this is a great idea as far as collaboration with the other departments is concerned. I, as you know, have personal experience with trying to deal with all the different government departments which are sometimes involved in anything. Department of Environment, Department of Health, Department of Air, Sea and Water, whatever they happen to be. But no, we need to go be able to pull these people together and talk this through with them so that we're all on the same page. And I'm quite happy to support this one. Thank you.
Is there any other discussion on this matter? Go ahead. Go ahead, Ms. Cherolf.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to ensure that the committee was clear on the implications of recommending to forward or not forward. So in the event the application is not forwarded to the ALC, the fallback would be to ALC compliance and enforcement, and they would be looking to compliance with the existing plan. And it was indicated to us by ALC staff that it would be much preferred if the CBRD were to forward the proposed AEP to the ALC. That would give them a lot more material to be able to work towards proper closure of this particular site. And further to that, staff did reach out to both the ministries, agriculture and mines, and both ministries have indicated willingness to come to any ASC meeting to present information and respond to questions from the committee. If the intent is to convene a meeting to discuss particular site or application, that needs to be done publicly. So we would be looking at an ASC meeting to do that. And so really the question to the committee is whether that should happen in advance of this application being dealt with, or if this application could be dealt with and that particular sort of convening of a meeting of the minds and coordinating jurisdiction, et cetera, would happen as a separate process. But I will leave that with the board. Thank you.
So you're suggesting that what I'm hearing from staff, that it's best for us to forward now, or that's what
Madam Chair, the staff recommendation has not changed. We would continue to recommend that the board forward this application to the ALC so that the ALC can deal with this, with the application, with the updated plan that's been presented by the applicant. Otherwise, this plan isn't considered by the ALC at all. It becomes a completely different situation, and our indication from the ALC is that they have less tools to deal with this particular site. And so the second part of that was in terms of convening the meeting or bringing the parties together, whether or not the board feels that that needs to happen before this application is determined, or if that could happen at a later date, which would potentially give us a little bit more time to organize it. But it is completely up to the board. I believe we still have a little bit of time to get back to the ALC. However, I would urge you to make the decision with those considerations in mind.
So what I'm hearing is it's best to forward, and it's also, we can still have our meetings as well. We can still have the communication, but needing to be very careful with our jurisdiction, and we've been there before, that it would be best to forward and then also have the communication, which they are all aware of this issue, that it would be best to have that communication as well. Currently on the floor, we have something different, and I turn to Director Nicholson.
Thank you, Ms. Gerald. I'm seeking clarification because when we made that motion for staff to have a meeting with ministry staff, part of it was to as sort of an information collection exercise so that we would be better informed before we made a decision about referring it to the ALC or not. And if we did refer it to the ALC, the comments that we would like to make to the ALC about the application. So what I'm hearing is that the staff are not going to have this meeting. It's going to be a meeting with us. Is that correct? And I'm not quite clear why that has to be and why the staff can't be working behind the scenes to collaborate.
Ms. Cheroff.
Through you, Madam Chair, to Director Nicholson. So I will actually, staff very diligently, planner Wright very diligently followed up with both agriculture and mines after the EASC meeting, and I will read the email that was provided by the ALC so that information is read into the record. And it reads, overall, by the board forwarding the application to the ALC for review, the ALC can then regulate the closure process better through compliance via the AEP than through enforcement, which is what would occur if the application is not forwarded. If not forwarded, a remediation order would be granted. However, the ALC would miss the opportunity to regulate the closure process, and it would take more time to close the mine. Through a referral from the CBRD, if the application is also approved by the ALC, conditions can be outlined, which will include a substantial security deposit, frequent monitoring reports, and a stipulation that if any non-compliance is noted by the agrologist, that the ALC should be contacted immediately and then action would be taken. Overall, the CBRD referral will permit the ALC to regulate the operation better. And so both ALC and ministry staff then mine staff indicated that they would be willing to come and present information and respond to questions from the committee.
But the staff recommendation still remains. And currently on the floor, we have something different. Go ahead, Director Morrison, or follow up, Director Nicholson.
Well, I'd just like clarification on one point. If we were to approve moving this forward to the ALC, how are we going to incorporate information that will come after from understanding better the situation into that referral? It seems that we need to have this meeting before we make a decision on the referral.
Cheryl?
Madam Chair, I'm not sure what information Director Nicholson is looking for that would come from such a meeting. It is unclear to me.
I had many, sorry, may I follow up?
Go ahead.
I had a number of questions focused on the actual plan that was presented to us, including why there was asphalt and cementatious material on the site, on an agricultural site to begin with. And those kind of questions and how they'll be dealt with, how can we make recommendations without really understanding, you know, how this whole site is going to be managed, recognizing there is a number of regulatory players in here. So that was my point. I think we can provide better advice and make a better decision if we have that information. So, yeah.
So through you, Madam Chair, I believe that Mr. Elliott's correspondence spoke to some of the information points that were questions that were raised during the ESC meeting that were posed as gaps in the application, and where in fact he actually highlighted that information was provided. He did note that the issue about asphalt recycling was not a matter for the ALC, so it's not sort of kind of part of the decision whether or not to forward the application to the ALC is not sort of part of that. But it's an issue that could be dealt with separately through bylaw enforcement complaint, for example. We can follow up with the applicant through bylaw enforcement complaint or through mines if there are provisions within the mines permit to deal with those types of activities. But that was not an ALC issue.
I turn to Director Morrison.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I'm kind of frustrated because I think what I'm hearing Ms. Charles say is what my understanding was in the discussion that was had at ESC. And my understanding was that we are a referral agency in this process. And it's, are we forwarding this or not? Or are we adding recommendations? That's the process at our disposal today. I think what this resolution that is on the floor is an attempt at creating or modifying existing procedures that when it comes to these types of referrals. I think there's a whole bunch of stuff that we would like to add for conditions, but the reality is there's a plan, a closure plan going forward, and if it doesn't get forwarded, then there is no closure plan being considered. So at the end of the day, what Ms. Trolf is saying makes perfect sense, is that let's give it to the ALC, who is the jurisdictional authority in dealing with this, and the mines, and for the concept of creating better communication and understanding on future permits like this, we can bring in the ministries to provide us with that information. But it's not going to line up that we have that information and a modification of the normal processes in time for us to be able to have a significant impact on this referral. And that's sort of what I understood when this motion was passed in the first place. I still think that the appropriate thing for us to do is to not necessarily defeat this, but go with the motion that our professional staff put before us and engage in that process of education and understanding and maybe a little bit of process modification outside of this application. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I absolutely agree with Director Morrison. I think that we need to really stay in our lane. It has been highlighted that the appropriate agencies know of different things. So they're already aware of issues. That's not our jurisdiction. We are being asked here for what is our jurisdiction. So is this referral to go forward? So currently, I turn to Director Acton and then Director Salmon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I quite understood that we actually had two choices here. We could actually deny, which would mean, so I feel like people have forgotten that there was a closure plan set 22 years ago. So that's why we're saying, well, wait a minute. There was a closure plan, but none of the rules have been followed and we're not at a closure. So we have the option of denying it or sending it to the ALC. So we want to understand, if we actually send it to the ALC again, what will happen? Who will make sure that those steps are taken? Because community agrees closure would be best. And that's what the community agreed to 22 years ago. So I don't think it's out of line asking for those kind of questions in order to make our decision, because we have every right to just deny it as well. And then it falls back to the old closure plan, because this new closure plan is more of the same old, more mining activity, more items that the community doesn't want to see. So if we're going to deny this step, and it sounds like staff's able to get some of these things done and some of that information done so we can make a full decision, then I want to just send this today back to ASC, because we're not making a good decision here out of fear of when we are actually allowed to make this decision today.
I see that Ms. Wright has shown up on the screen, and Ms. Cheryl, if you want to go ahead first. Either
Thanks,
one of
Madam
you.
Chair. Yeah, I just wanted to say I believe that the current closure plan, or is no longer a current closure plan. I believe that the previous permits expired, so there's nothing. But I would defer to Ms. Wright to elaborate on that, perhaps.
Thank you. I appreciate this opportunity. So yes, Ms. Sheriff is correct that the previous plan is expired and they're working without a plan. So this was to bring the site into compliance with the current ALC policies that are required to be complied with. So in my conversations yesterday and the day before I spoke with, I believe their title is Director of Operations of the ALC. They assured me that this site in particular is on their radar. They are aware of the community concerns and that they do put bonding in place for any kind of closure application. But in this case, because of the concerns and because of the non-compliance issues in the past, that the bond will most likely be higher than what would be required through their legislation, because they have the ability to do that. They also said that due to those previous non-compliance issues, that the agrologist, Mr. Thomas Elliott, would be required to submit reports every 3 months. And in those reports, he would be professionally relied upon to let the ALC know immediately if any non-compliance issues are seen on the site, and the ALC would act immediately. I was assured that this happens. When this happens, the ALC takes it very seriously. Also, it was noted that the ALC bylaw compliance officer would be visiting the site frequently, and all these conditions would be put into their when the ALC commissioner signs off on the closure plan. So I do want to reassure the directors that the ALC is aware of the concerns of the community and is taking this seriously. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And that once again was the staff recommendation to forward so that they could do their jurisdictional duty and they would follow up. So I don't know where the committee would like to go now. Did I have Director Salmon?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So yeah, I think we will still make that decision to refer. However, I prefer to wait until we've had the meetings that we set in our motion that we made at committee. So I don't see that there's a big problem with a small delay while we have make sure we're as informed as we can be and respond to the community in a way and make our decision to refer or not, or with what conditions or not after we do those meetings. So I would stick with what we've come up with committee.
Okay, well, is there Anyone else? Director Martman.
Let me gather my thoughts for a second. I thought I heard clearly from our delegation that, and I think probably from both speakers on this topic, that they weren't in disagreement of process perhaps should get changed, and that was maybe the future, but it's not the current reality. I think that's sort of, I'm paraphrasing, and it is not about that is not about a particular applicant. It's about a process. And I think that's all we want, is making good decisions, good information going forward. So I think there's definitely value in this motion to maybe start that down the road. What I also hear, though, is how do you make good decisions with the current applicant, and do we have all the information to make a referral? And I think it's really about what conditions might be in place when you put a referral forward. I would like to look at that. I'm not sure what those conditions might be, that we might want to recommend to the ALC as we put a referral. If I'm correct, that's something we can do. And I guess I'm not sure I understand all those options, because one of the things I read consistently in the reports from Dr. Elliott was that timelines are subject to agricultural practices. And I made note of that because as a farmer, I understand what that means, because farming practices will take priority. At least this is how I interpreted it. And that leaves me with a little bit of unsurety about what the timelines actually are around closure, and should I even worry about that as a director if we're making a referral, or do we say in a referral that we'd like to see concrete timelines? So that's an example of sort of my trying to understand this. So I guess I do understand the idea of referral back, but at the same time, this motion has some merit too. So I'm not sure how to separate those out. Other than those are my thoughts. Thank you.
Okay, Director Morrison.
So what I'm hearing and what I'm thinking might be the appropriate path forward, and obviously we would have to test the House as to whether or not this made any sense, but it seems to me that there's a desire to improve processes. Yet I'm looking at all of the information that we've gathered, and to me, it seems like staff have heard what the concerns of committee are. And part of our responsibility is to rely on staff when the actual document goes to the ALC, that they are reflecting some of the concerns they're reflecting the concerns that we've brought forward. So it's my thinking that moving forward should be passing the resolution, that it be forwarded to the ALC, because if we don't, then there's no closure plan. And then it gives the appropriate jurisdictions the ability and the recommendation to move forward on this. Subsequent to passing the resolution to forward this to the ALC, we should pass a portion of this resolution that's on the floor that says, let's begin the conversation on potential process change for future ALC referrals to the CVRD. So
and that would be the communication. That seems like a clearer path to me, and I appreciate that. But currently,
point of order, do we have a motion on the floor?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
So we currently have a motion on the floor. Yes. Go ahead, Director Nicholson.
Thank you. Director Morrison provides one way forward. I have a problem with that way forward. It is that we're giving up our opportunity to provide comments about the closure plan that has been presented to us. And I really feel strongly it was not a very good closure plan. And I would like to have the opportunity to put down comments about the closure plan. So it seems to me that if this resolution, this motion that's on the floor doesn't I mean, I think this motion that's on the floor should pass because that's a process issue, but it was also about gathering information. And so I think at least that should happen before we have the information to provide a good referral.
I think staff has heard, and I just believe that we need to forward this to ALC, and then we need to meet with them and be clearer on it. But I think that currently the permit has expired and it should go forward with the staff recommendation. But on the floor, we do not have that. So I guess I will be calling the question on what's on the floor currently, and do we need it read out? Could you read it out, Ms. Harrison, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The recommendation before you is that application number ALR 21B01 for 1715 and 1745 Thane Road, PID 028342119 and PID 001740849 be referred back to staff to facilitate a meeting with the Agricultural Land Commission, Ministry of Mines, and Ministry of Environment regarding the operations and non-compliance issues on the subject site and how to work together to move the site forward in a more positive way, and report back to Electoral Area Services Committee prior to the committee making any decision on the application.
Okay, Director Acton.
Well, I'm still in support of that motion. I heard from staff that we have time, so let's give them some time to come back to committee with more information. And even there was new information mentioned today that was read out, and I couldn't grasp it all. I like to actually see it written down as well. So I'm happy with the motion, and let's move forward and vote on this. Thank you.
I just have a point of clarification, Ms. Harrison. Does that mean in this recommendation that we are going to come back with our recommendation to forward or not to the ALC? I believe that's what it says in that recommendation at the end.
It doesn't specifically say that. It infers that prior to making any decision on the application, that would infer the decision being to forward or not to forward.
Oh, because I think that it would be clearer if it said to forward.
We would like the opportunity to be able to add any comments if we do forward. So I don't think we're not complete as a community for giving our input on this. So I'm not sure why we're trying to add to this resolution.
Director Morrison?
Question through you to staff. I've heard that we have the possibility of having the ministries come and present to us in an open meeting. And so that would be an invitation that we would be sending out. They would come, they would be a delegation, and we would have some general discussion and possibly some discussion around specifics to this. But so can I have a clearly delineated timeline as to when the referral is expected back and whether or not there is a reasonable potential for us to get the work done that would be driven by this resolution, and whether it would be done in time to meet the deadline for the ALC referral?
Ms. Wright or Ms. Cheroff?
Defer to Ms. Wright.
Ms. Wright?
Thank you. Through to the chair, to Director Morrison. So I have spoken to both the ALC as well as a representative from the Ministry of Mines, who are both willing to come to a meeting. I don't have an exact date yet. I have given them the dates for the next two EASC meetings. However, I haven't heard back because these conversations are pretty recent. So both of them are willing to come. It would be great if the directors could send some questions that they would like answered ahead of time, so that the both parties have the ability to prepare answers, and they're willing to answer questions on the spot as well. So with that, we also don't have, I've specifically asked the ALC what their timeline is for the referral, and I never got a response yet. So with that, I do believe there is more time to send our referral response back.
That's good to know. Follow up, Director Morrison?
Well, it seems like we're trying to make a decision based on timelines without knowing what the timelines are. So, you know, I guess we pass the resolution or we do what the staff have recommended. I'll leave it at that.
Okay, can I call the question? All in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Ms. Harrison?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Moving on now.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The next item on the agenda are bylaws, and the first item, item B1, the recommendation before you is that CVRD bylaw number 4417, Malahat Fire Protection Service Amendment Bylaw 2022 be adopted.
Moved. Second. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Motion's carried.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Item B2, the recommendation before you is that CVRD bylaw number 4418, Eagle Heights Fire Protection Service Amendment Bylaw 2022 be adopted.
Moved. Second. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Motion's carried.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The next item, item B3, the recommendation before you is that CVRD bylaw number 4419, Lake Cowichan Fire Protection Service Area Amendment, which is a boundary extension, bylaw 2022 be adopted.
Moved. Second. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Motion's carried.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The next items on the agenda are bylaws for electoral area directors only. Item BEA1, recommendation before you is that CVRD bylaw number 4391, Board of Variance Establishment and Procedures bylaw 2022 be adopted.
Moved. Second. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Motion's carried.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Item BA2, recommendation reads that CVRD bylaw number 4379, Development Application Procedures bylaw 2022 be adopted.
Moved. Second. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Motion's carried.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Item BA3, two-part recommendation. Recommendation number 1, that CVRD bylaw number 4408, Advisory Planning Commission Establishment bylaw 2022 be given first, second, and third reading.
Okay, I have Director Acton. Are you moving it?
Nope. I have a question.
Is there a mover? Seeing no movers, what's your question, Director Acton?
Oh, okay. I would have some concerns around the implications of the regional APC and some questions around how it would be structured exactly, or concerns that sounds like it would just be one person from each area, and where would that meeting be held? And then if it, when we talked about it last time, I understood that the regional APC would be more for policy and regional issues, but it doesn't actually clearly say that. It does say that the regional APC could have land use applications and development applications. So if that was the case, my concern and then on top of that, I would be concerned that applications would be sent to the regional APC out of convenience instead of to the local APC. And I can't think of very many land use items that are not local. And then that area would only have one vote, where in the past with our joint APCs, at least, and they proved to not be very effective, but at the very least, it was weighted heavier with that area's representation. So those are a few of my questions.
Ms. Cheryl?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the regional APC is only established if the board establishes it. The bylaw provides for up to 2 representatives of each electoral area to serve on a regional APC, and referrals to the regional APC come from the board, not the general manager or an electoral area director. And I just wanted to add that this bylaw is on the agenda for 3 readings and adoption to coincide with the other administrative bylaws that the board has just adopted. And staff would be coming back to, I believe it's the next DASD, with some proposed policy around APC referrals. So there's an opportunity to have further discussion about board policy around APC referrals at that time.
Okay, thank you. Director Morrison.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. And I'm struggling, I think, along the lines of what Director Acton is struggling with. You know, I didn't see a full-throated, enthusiastic support of this, unless I'm misreading it. And you know, I think we are all very reliant on our advisory planning commissions. I think we get pretty good advice from them, and I know that I'm leery at the notion of a regional APC. I know we're putting a regional HOCP and zoning together, but I just didn't think that we were, as a group, at that place where we were prepared to put it in a bylaw. I think we can always amend a bylaw to put it in, and I know Ms. Charolf has said that, you know, it won't come into existence until, or if the board actually creates one. But you know, I can imagine a scenario where a couple of electoral areas were not on side with something, and that it could be a situation where it would be created and there wasn't a unanimity amongst the electoral areas to create one. So you know, I don't know that it's, you know, unless staff are telling us it's absolutely necessary to be in there, I think that I'm not comfortable with it at this point yet, and I think there might be a couple of other directors around the table that aren't as well. And can it proceed without the regional APC component to the bylaw?
Ms. Charolf?
Thank you, Madam Chair. If the board wanted to proceed with the APC bylaw today, I would recommend a short recess so that we could craft a resolution that would allow you to amend the bylaw and then be adopted today. But we would need probably, and I would ask Ms. Harrison to comment on that. She may object, but it may be possible to advance today with some minor adjustments. Otherwise, we would bring it back to the next board with that adjustment based on the board's recommendation.
So can it come back to the next board, Ms. Harrison? It hasn't been moved or seconded. Do we just bring it back to the next board?
Yes, Madam Chair, with a recommendation to that effect.
Yes. Director Acton?
I was moving that.
Seconded by Director Salmon. Okay, all in favor? Opposed, if any? Motion's carried. Ms. Harrison.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Item BE4, recommendation before you is that CVRD bylaw number 4360, Electoral Area B, Shawnigan Lake, zoning amendment bylaw 2022 be granted first and second reading.
Moved. Is there a second? Second. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Motion's carried. Ms. Harrison?
Thank you, Madam Chair. New business items were considered previously in the agenda. We move to question period. I have no applicants. So then we need a recommendation to resolve into closed session.
Okay. Moved in second, all in favor? Opposed, if any? 10-minute break.